Hi, today we're covering an event which occurred in the ominously named Devil's Gulch within the Sierra National Forest of California. On August 16, 2021, the bodies of John Gerrish, his wife Ellen Chung, and their 1-year-old daughter Miju, along with their pet dog Oski, were discovered near Devil's Gulch. This area is located northeast of Mariposa and southwest of Yosemite National Park, and the family was on the Savage Lundy Trail near Hitz Cove, a small community in Mariposa. John was seated near the trail with Miju and Oski beside him, while Ellen was found 20 to 30 feet further up the trail, and they appeared to have sat down in the hot sun, then passed suddenly. But the cause of their deaths was a mystery which has led to much speculation and even its own fair share of conspiracies. Mariposa County Sheriff's spokeswoman Kristie Mitchell said, "Coming across a scene where everyone involved, including the family dog, is deceased, is not something we or other agencies have typically seen. That's why we're treating it as a hazmat situation. We just don't know what happened." This statement would lead on to further conspiracy theories. Mariposa County Sheriff Jeremy Briese expressed his confusion over the deaths of the Gerrish family by saying, "I've been here for 20 years and I've never seen a case like this. There's no obvious indicators of how it occurred. You have 2 healthy adults, a healthy child, and a healthy dog all found dead in the same area. It's frustrating and devastating to anyone and everyone involved. And we're not gonna rest until we find answers." Initially, the autopsies didn't shed light on the cause of death for Ellen, John, Miju, and their dog, leading theories to range from everything, including carbon monoxide poisoning, toxic algae, lightning strikes, hyperthermia, bacterial water contamination, poison gas from nearby mines, to even governmental conspiracies. By late August 2021, the cause of death was still unknown, and the investigation continued until late October 2021, when Mariposa Sheriff's Office finally confirmed that the family had died from hyperthermia, along with dehydration. All the while, strangely enough, their dog succumbed to heat. This is particularly puzzling, given the family had an 85-ounce water bottle and a bottle of infant formula with them, both found near the site, leading to questions such as, how did the entirety of the family, including the dog, die from hyperthermia along with dehydration, despite having water? The unusual nature of their deaths continues to haunt their families and the community at large, and it has created some of the wildest conspiracy theories imaginable, including a hole in the ozone layer causing the undiluted heat from the sun to affect them, and a greater government conspiracy. Now, the area where this incident occurred is Devil's Gulch, in particular, Savage Lundy Trail. The Savage Lundy Trail is a rather challenging 2.8-mile trek near the South Fork of the Mercer River and Devil's Gulch, as it starts near Hitz Cove, which was a former mining community where gold was discovered in 1861, and eventually this town would burn down, but keep the remnants, essentially a graveyard, of its mining past, with around 3,000 abandoned and rather eerie mines from the gold rush era. In part, this locale and the somewhat spooky atmosphere has led to some of the wilder theories. Now, Hitz Cove is located on the South Fork of the Mercer River, about 4.5 miles southwest of El Portal at an elevation of 1,578 feet, and it has been noted that the best way to reach Hitz Cove Trail is by starting at Savage's Trading Post near El Portal on Highway 140. Normally, this trail would be rather busy, so some believe that the family just dying of hyperthermia would seem odd in this relatively well-traveled trail. There is also the fact that poison oak and other plants that can release toxins have grown along this trail. In particular, toxins have been noted to be released more often when the land is burning. However, there were no fires during the Gerrish family death. The patriarch of the family was originally from Lancashire in the UK, and he had moved to the US several years prior and worked as a software engineer in Google. His wife, Ellen Chung, was a 31-year-old California native and was a graduate from Berkeley, so this couple was a rather well-educated duo. So the thought of such a well-educated pair completely missing the signs of heat exhaustion and heat stroke has many people scratching their heads, regardless of whether it is believable or not. Now, the couple was known for being avid hikers, often taking their daughter along with them in a baby carrier. Their friends, in particular, Mariposa real estate agent Sydney Randovich, mentioned that the couple had fallen in love with the Mariposa area, going so far as to purchase several homes there, including their own residential property. And this could be seen as a rather notable display of wealth, which has led to some believing that there may have been some potentially disgruntled individuals who for some reason or another might have targeted the families, despite the police's insistence and the lack of evidence of any intentional harm done to the family. The hike and the disappearance of the Gerrish family occurred on the morning of August 15th, 2021, as the family set out on the hike of the Savage Lundy Trail. And it was noted that they were well prepared for this day in the wilderness, carrying an 85-ounce bottle of water along with baby formula. Unfortunately, despite their experience and the noted preparations, the family would not return home that evening, prompting concerned calls from their friends and family. On the next day, their bodies would be discovered near the ominously named Devil's Gulch, which itself was a cause for further concern. It seemed that they had arrived on the trailhead on August 15th in their Ford Raptor truck and parked the vehicle about 1.5 miles away from where their bodies would be found, near the Sierra National Forest gate leading into Hitz Cove in the Jersey-Dale area, which itself is somewhat confusing since the gate serves primarily as a starting point for the Savage Lundy Trail and the Hitz Cove Trail, meaning that leading them to accidentally allowing themselves to be exposed to the elements seems rather out of place. But eventually the family would be reported missing at around 11 p.m. on August 16th, after their daughter's nanny discovered that they had not returned home, leading their friends and colleagues to become worried since they also were unable to reach them. Add to that John was supposed to work on Monday for a rather notably sized company, caused alarm bells to ring for many. Mariposa County Sheriff's Office would launch an official search on August 17th, and they quickly found the couple's truck the next day at the Sierra National Forest gate. It seems unmoved. Deputies, along with search and rescue teams, would quickly hike down the step on the straight road and almost immediately found shoe and paw prints that matched what they would expect the family along with their dog to leave. At 3:20 a.m. on August 17th, the sheriff's office received a search helicopter for daybreak, and a second search team started down the loop going back to the Forest Service gate, with the South Fork of the Mercer River marking the halfway point to their truck, nearing the end of the hike. At around 11 a.m., about 1.5 miles down the switchback, the team found the family. In the middle of the trail, John was seated with Miju, and their dog sat right beside them. All the while, Ellen had been found a little bit further up the hill, all dead, and it appeared that the family had been heading back to their truck, nearing the end of their hike. And it was noted that there was a cell phone found in John's pocket, but there was little to no cell coverage in that part of the trail in particular. Investigators immediately searched the phone for any and all saved drafts of text messages or attempts to call anyone, including rescue services, photos, and GPS data. The family was also found with a backpack and a camelback bladder containing a small amount of water. This camelback and the water within it was sent for testing in order to check for possible contamination, which there was no indication, and they also checked to see if they had been within any contaminated water. But this was quickly ruled out since the family had no indication of having been swimming, as they were dry when they were found. In order to preserve this scene, 2 sheriff's deputies would stay near the family overnight in order to guarantee that there would be no tampering occurring and to prevent anyone from attempting to scavenge anything from the bodies. The following day, a California Highway Patrol helicopter airlifted the bodies off the trail. When attempting to answer what happened to the family near Devil's Gulch, many possibilities were considered, including hyperthermia, toxic algal blooms, bacterial contaminations, along with gas escaping from abandoned gold mines. Temperatures during their hike were high, not extremely, but they were high, reaching up to 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit. And while hyperthermia seemed possible, dehydration was greatly questioned since the family did have water with them, and the fact that their dog also died, which seems unusual since it was not forcefully tethered in such a way that it would also die of dehydration. Investigators would note that the family was around 3 miles from a disused mine where toxic gases like carbon monoxide may accumulate. However, experts suggested that direct exposure within the mine shaft would likely be necessary to cause a death in the way that the family died, which casted a large amount of doubt upon this theory. Investigators would continue to follow this trail as they checked for any unreported mines along the lower section of the trail. However, they found none close enough to be a potential cause. Samples of water were also taken from the South Fork of the Merced River and Snyder Creek, which run adjacent to the trail, in order to test for bacterial contamination or any other variant of contamination. In fact, on July 21st, the Sierra National Forest authorities had posted a warning about a dangerous algal bloom in the Mercer River at Hitz Cove after tests showed a high toxin concentration. It would go so far as the EPA, or U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, stated that such algal blooms could potentially cause hazardous toxins that can sicken and or even kill people along with animals. Sheriff Jeremy Briese acknowledged these various more realistic theories by stating, "There are different options out there, including mine shafts and off-gassing. We're learning more with our partners in the Forest Service and Public Health about the toxicity of algal blooms they're posting about." However, the sheriff would also note, "We have not found any old mine shafts near the area. There are some mine shafts further along, but we cannot confirm if that is a cause yet." Despite no signs of foul play or trauma, the investigation was classified as a homicide for purely procedural measures. That is until the results of the coroner's post-mortem examinations would come, along with the toxicology reports. Now, unlike his family, the dog's body was examined by veterinary experts at the University of California, Davis. Sheriff Jeremy emphasized that his deputies were working hard to support the victims' devastated families, stating, "It's tragic, it's emotional. We're going to do everything we can to ensure closure and safety for our community." Others would go on to add, "Investigators have considered whether toxic gases or toxic algae and carbon monoxide from abandoned mines near the area may have contributed to their deaths. We're not focusing on one specific cause at this point. There are just so many that we can't rule out. We've looked at lightning strikes in the area. We've looked at storms, the weather, and animals. We're looking at the entire area as a whole." It would go so far as to necessitate a hazmat situation being declared after the bodies were found and extracted from the location. The California State Water Resources Control Board and Mariposa County would continue to test the waterways in the area for any signs of toxic algae and cyanobacterial toxins. Although the California Department of Public Health noted that they did not know of any human deaths from recreational or drinking water which was exposed to cyanobacterial toxins, it would go on to acknowledge that algae blooms have killed some animals. Eventually, the body's autopsy reports would come in, as they would be completed on Thursday, August 19th, and it definitively showed that none of the bodies had physical wounds, like firearm wounds or any external signs of trauma. Added to all that, no self-termination note was found. Kristie Mitchell would confirm things by stating, "It makes for a very unique, very strange situation. I think it's going to be a very long and in-depth, thorough investigation because it isn't clear-cut as some cases are." The Mariposa County Sheriff's Office would for a time continue the investigation, as the case was in essence ongoing, even though the most accepted conclusion was hyperthermia, despite all evidence that it was avoidable. On August 26th, the Sheriff's Office of Mariposa County ruled out any weapons or chemical hazards along the Savage Lundy Trail as potential causes of death. However, they would emphasize that all potential causes of death remain viable. On Saturday, August the 28th, Sierra National Forest officials would go on to issue the closure of the Mercer River Recreation Site due to some unknown hazards found near Savage Lundy Trail. The forest order was number 05-15-51-21-18. Starting from August 29th, the trail would be closed until September 26th, or sooner if conditions changed around the area. The purpose of the forest order was to provide public safety due to the unknown hazards in and near the Savage Lundy Trail, in particular within the Bass Lake Ranger District. These designated recreation sites, along with the roads and trails within its proximity or leading to them, would be off limits to the public until further notice. This caused many to believe that there was some, at least partial, cover-up, since the exact threat or reason as to why this happened and what the toxin was not openly disclosed upon the trail's closure. However, things would be simplified for the Forest Service as fires started to race across the state at that time, leading to a closure of some 20 million acres around California's national forests for a 2-week period between August 31st, 2021 until September of that same year. Eventually, there would be an official confirmation of a cause of death. This was following the toxicology reports and testing which occurred on September 30th, 2021, which led the Mariposa County Sheriff's Office to confirm the following had been permanently ruled out: firearms or any other weapon or implement, including striking implements, lightning strikes, carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide, cyanide, drugs, and alcohol. This was all excluded, along with authorities stating that it was not a case of self-termination as far as they could gather. Then later in October 21st, 2021, the Mariposa County Sheriff's Office announced that the Gerrish family had died of hyperthermia and dehydration, despite there being water and their dog passing due to heat-related conditions. Sheriff Jeremy Briese remarked, "For Mariposa County, this is rare. This is the first hyperthermia-related death I've encountered here in 20 years. In essence, authorities believe that they all died of heat stroke, and while possible, even likely, there are still some who believe a greater conspiracy is afoot. Now, their claims are on such shaky grounds that they don't even directly mention as to whom it would be, but they claim vague organizations stating the claims involve the government, big companies, special interests, but nothing quite as specified as a particular group or individual being named. Just generic conspiracy fodder." It would later be revealed by authorities through the news media that one final text was sent, which seems to overrule or make any of these conspiracies seem moot. As the text read, "Can you help us on Savage Lundy Trail heading back to Hits Cove Trail? No water or heating with baby." And it was a failed attempt to send the text, and the text failed to send at 11:56 a.m. as the family seemed to have just legitimately have died of heat stroke and dehydration just a mere 1.6 miles away from their vehicle. However, even with this information, it still begs the question of how did such a rare occurrence as a hyperthermia incident occur, especially since the heat would not be as extreme as in other instances of the same cause of death, and the fact that the family still had some water with them, along with the fact that the dog died along with them as well. And while the exact circumstances leading to their deaths remain complex and unknown, and the fact that the forested area around there was closed due to environmental hazards, this mystery seems to be just a mere few steps away from being completely solved. If you remained with me until the end, I thank you, and I do hope you stay tuned and subscribe for more content.